Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This week's Torah portion, Parshat Tetzaveh, B'nai Yisrael, and you shall command the Jewish people. It's very interesting. This Torah portion is the only Torah portion that does not have Moshe Rabbeinu's name in it. Moshe Rabbeinu, from the time he's born in the book of Exodus, throughout the time until the last book of Deuteronomy, is mentioned in every single Torah portion and is a key person in every single Torah portion, whereas in this week's Torah portion, he is not mentioned even once. And the reason for that is, the rabbis explain, very interesting, is that also this week was the yard site of Moshe Rabbeinu, the day of his passing. But more than that is that we are a little bit out of chronological order. We had slavery, plagues, Exodus, splitting of the sea, giving of the Torah, talking about the mitzvot and mishpatim, and then what happens right after 40 days and 40 nights, is the Jewish people sin with the golden calf. But in reality, we didn't talk about the golden calf the last week or this week. What we talked about is the garments of the high priest in this week's Torah portion and the vessels of the tabernacle in last week's Torah portion, because we didn't want to go to a low. We didn't want to go from the giving of a Torah, next thing talking about the Jews with a golden calf. And so God takes a little break over here and starts talking about the building of a tabernacle, even though that happens later on. But next week's Torah portion, Parshas Kisisa, is when we talk about the Jews and the golden calf. And what happens by the golden calf is that Hashem tells Moshe, look down, look at your people. Look what a terrible thing they did. And let me destroy this nation and make a great nation out of you. You can imagine right after the giving of a Torah, right after the greatest revelation in the history of the world, the Jewish people, 40 days later, are adulterating on God and serving an idol, a golden calf. And we're not going to focus on that, of how could that happen. But the reality was such a magnitude of moment that God turns around to Moses and says, I'm done with these Jewish people, and I'm going to make a great nation out of you. What happens is, Moshe tells God, if you do that, take my name out of your Torah, erase my name from the Torah, is actually the words that he used. Mechenis misifrecha, erase my name from your book. Why does he tell that to God? He tells that to God because he says, if you're a God that cannot handle a mistake, even if it was a grave mistake, even if it was a mistake of epic proportions, but you can't figure out how to accept atonement for the Jewish people, then I don't want to be a part of such a God. I don't want to be part of such a book. And when Moses tells that to God, God was actually feeding him and basically waiting for him to argue on behalf of the Jewish people. And when he argues on behalf of the Jewish people, God says, of course, I'm going to atone for them, and it gives him the way to do tshuva. But the words that Moses uses, erase me from your Torah. And when a tzaddik says something, when a righteous individual says something, it has eternal value. And so therefore there had to be one Torah portion that was missing Moses' name. And that's why this week's Torah portion is missing Moses' name. Nevertheless, the word ve'ata, and you, is something even powerful than a name. A name is somewhat secondary to individual, even though a name is directly connected to our soul. But the word ve'ata and you is even deeper than a name. The name you are a person before you even got your name, because Hashem was telling Moshe Rabbeinu something very powerful, and that is what a true leader is: somebody who stands up for other people, someone that stands up even if they did maybe something wrong, and even if they were challenged, he's ready to put himself out there to save another person. And that's why God tells him V'ata and you. And so even though he technically had to be missing from one Torah portion, which this is it, in reality, this is the Torah portion in which God talks about to his essence. And it teaches the power of standing up for another individual, of helping another individual, as we just learned a couple of days ago in Tanya and Hayom Yom, is that when we see something challenge another person, we should never say that there might be a reason for it, but we should always stand up to God and say, God, why are you doing it? In our own lives, we can always try to figure out how to become better. But when we see a misjustice, whether it's a misjustice in this world, a misjustice that we believe happens to an individual, we should always stand up for them. When we do that, that is when God talks to our essence. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and we'll see you tonight, 6 o'clock, tomorrow, 10:15.